Visual communication seems such a kind of hot topic right now. Why do you think everyone's realizing the power of pictures over words?
I think everyone lives in such a cluttered world that we don't. It's very hard to communicate information. There's so much we need to communicate and so much we need to receive that's very tricky to break through the clutter, and visuals do a great job of that. I think visual storytelling, in my view, there are two huge benefits. One is processing information when you're hearing something and how you put a bit of yourself into it. I was trained to take notes like a court stenographer, and when you're writing down exactly what you hear, it's regurgitation. You're not really processing it. But when you're doing visual note taking, you find yourself putting a bit of yourself into the process and taking an idea you hear and grafting it onto a few of your own in order to make something actually bigger. And the second big benefit is in communication. I did a cartoon once that I called Idea Camouflage, and it has somebody standing up at a podium saying, here's a remarkable idea whittled down to 127 monochromatic slides. I'll read word by word for the next 90 minutes. And I think people do a lot of idea camouflage, but visuals have an amazing capacity to communicate an idea in a really raw way that's incredibly powerful. I heard a few years ago a talk from Chris Bangle, the head designer at BMW, and his entire presentation was nothing but stick figures and a couple of simple words, and it was so much more powerful than anything he could ever have done in PowerPoint.
Cool. And what was the catalyst for you starting drawing? When did you start that?
Funny enough, in business school, I'd always been a doodler. I guess when I was at age 11, I loved to draw, and then I let that slip away like a lot of us do. When I got to business school, I found myself doodling in the margins, and then the next thing you know, I'd started a cartoon strip, and professors were asking me to create cartoons as teaching aids for their business cases. Wow. And I found that cartoons could both be funny, but also convey a certain amount of insight, and I just loved the simplicity of the medium.
I love your work and the cartoons you produced. How do you succeed in that kind of high productivity rate of consistently turning out good work? I mean, is there a lot of stuff that falls by the wayside that's not good enough to make it to air, or what?
There is. I think the key to any idea process is to come up with far many more ideas than you actually need, and then you go through an editing screen. I remember a few years ago I heard a cartoonist talk, and he was saying he had this fear when he started out, much like I did, that he would someday that his idea process was like a well, and someday it would run dry. And he realized over time there was actually much more like a muscle. And provided he kept exercising it, the idea process tended to come. And I find that whenever I'm sitting at my drafting table or I'm sitting in my usual places to come up with ideas, I have it's such a habit for me. The ideas start to come the moment I put my pencil down and start scribbling. It might take some time, but sooner or later it will start to come. Whereas if I go through a block of time where I haven't done much idea generation, it gets harder and harder over time. So I think the key for me is to always have a sketchbook and always be in the process of doodling.
Right.
Yeah.
You've got one there.
Yeah, I do.
You got some stuff to show us in there, or some things you've been doing?
No, I just usually have it with me. Yeah. But
always be prepared.
You always be prepared. That's the key thing. I always forget it. If I don't put it down right away, I'm going to forget it.